welcome. You have two sites.
Yeah.
Tell me about these sites.
So when the World Bank were in the country, they brought in the Finnish Geologic Survey and Fugro, two major international players in the mining world, and they did a bunch of geophysics, geochem, and through that they ranked areas of the country for prospectivity for certain minerals. So Jennifer locked up the two of the key areas that were the most highly ranked for cobalt exploration, cobalt production. And so we have one area called Kalimbe.
Yep.
We call it our Kalimbe properties, and those assets are to the north and south and on trend with the former Kalimbe mine, which was historically a mine operated by Falconbridge back in the 50s and the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
They produced 16 million tons of ore grading 2% copper. And when they went through their chemical process on the copper, the byproduct was cobalt. Now they weren't looking for it in those days, and they weren't looking to high grade it, but they were getting roughly 0.2% cobalt as well from the ore they were processing. So it was a major mine. It contributed 7 to 8% of the Ugandan GDP at the time, and a lot of their foreign income. And so it was a major success story for them. So what we have done is we've locked up land to the north and south of the mining license.
Mm-hmm.
And the geology there is such that the type of deposit that mine is, you normally find in several clusters. So our thesis and our belief is that we will find several similar sized deposits in the surrounding area to the mine.
So where are you at as far as your exploration of that site at the moment?
So what we've done is we've used, there's a Canadian company called Geotech. They have what's known as VTEM surveying, and they use special equipment from a helicopter to survey the land.
Mm-hmm.
And what that equipment does is it identifies buried sulfide deposits. And these are sulfide deposits. So they've flown the area for us across our licenses. They've discovered several very interesting anomalies, which we now have ground crews going in to do ground geochem ahead of us looking to drill those later this summer. So it's a technology that very much helps speed up the exploration process, and
because it helps to identify exactly where you want to drill.
Exactly,
yeah.
You don't have to explore the whole of the license. You basically get high graded from where you should look.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a very good history of people finding buried deposits and within 6 months having a resource number, and within 8 to 9 months actually be preparing for mines. So they can short circuit the whole process. So because the area around Kalimbe is what they call VMS, it's a sulfide deposit, this made sense to use this technology, and it's really helped us identify some pretty interesting things.
And how many sites has it revealed that you want to explore?
Two key targets and several smaller targets. So, again, our thesis is we're going to find deposits similar to the roughly 20 million tons that was at the old Falconbridge mine.
Your second project?
Second project is what we call Bujagali.
Mm-hmm.
And Bujagali it's still in the south of Uganda. It's a little bit more in the center. And it's a really interesting deposit because there was no former mining production there,
yeah.
but there was significant gold artisanal mining in the past. So clearly interesting from that perspective, but also it's where two of the key mineral trends out of the DRC meet, one of which comes out of Katanga, which is the main copper cobalt belt in the DRC.
So you're trying to determine whether or not those veins extend into...
Yeah, we don't believe they stop at
the border.
Country boundaries. And also the work that the World Bank did indicated some very interesting stuff from the geophysics and the geochem they did. They identified a pretty interesting looking nickel anomaly, and a lot of the work they did showed the prospectivity of the area. So when Jennifer was choosing which areas to lock up, Kalimbe made sense because of the former production, but this one really intrigued her. I think this would be her favorite asset. It's a big asset. We have 5 licenses covering 1,400 square kilometers. And it's very intriguing from a geological perspective. So we've actually been on the ground there for 4 months now with ground crews doing ground geophysics and geochem, and we've had some really positive soil and rock samples. We've identified so far, and we're about halfway through that program there, we've identified 2 what we think could be major discoveries where we've seen soil and rock samples up to 1.24% cobalt, and a mineralization in the areas where the anomalies are that looks very reminiscent of Katanga, which again is the main copper cobalt region in the DRC.
So in both cases, you're still very early stage. How much more work or time do you need before you start to make investment decisions to move to the next level of exploration?
So we probably have approximately, and it just depends on how quickly it takes the crews to get across the land. So we probably have about 2 more months of our current program, which is to go across all of the licenses and do in-depth geophysics, geochem work. We have already, through the work at Kalembe and Bujagale, identified 4 to 5 key targets. So what we are going to do is, when we raised money in January, we went to raise 5 million. We ended up with over 8 million. So we had a little bit of extra in the till. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to do some initial drilling on the key targets that we've already identified. We're actually trenching them now, which will help us pinpoint drill-ready targets. And then we'll go and do a somewhat limited initial drilling program, which will tell us a lot about the mineralization, how deep it extends, and will form the basis for a much bigger drilling program later this year, where we will look to come up with initial reserve numbers on 2 or 3 of the key targets.
So tell me a little bit about your company. How long you've been in business? Who's involved?
Sure. So as I said, it's been in germination for its current form for over 18 months. The private company where the Uganda assets came for is about 6.5 years old. They found the assets. They did a bit of work on the assets. They, as I say, they cherry-picked the key assets, and so there was work done there. In its current guise, we went public in October of last year. And as I say, we acquired the Ugandan assets in January of this year. So we're young. We have put together a team both from the private Ugandan company on the public side, which we think marries some really key skills. One of our key directors is Graham Harris, who's the chairman of Millennial Lithium. Millennial Lithium is a company with lithium assets in Argentina. It's raised over 100 million. It has strategic Chinese investment in it now. And it's an interesting company because it's moved from greenfield exploration through resource, PEA, and now into feasibility stage in less than 2 years. And it's raised 100 million to do it. So again, Graham was the guy I spoke to originally about the cobalt side. So we've had a lot of the early investors from Millennial Lithium invest in us. A lot of the marketing and promotional side, we followed what they've done, and then we've married that with the technical skills and the key players that we have on the ground in Uganda. As well as Jennifer on the technical side, we also have a very well-known and respected qualified person. Our lead geo who runs our programs on the ground is a guy called Dean Besserer. And Dean was one of the founders of Apex Geoscience, which is a global geosciences group, and he's run projects across Africa and around the world. So very, very old hand at this, and very good at running programs and keeping us on budget and doing what we have to do. And he's very much, you've got to go through the steps. You don't shortcut anything. But he's also at the point where, we've seen enough now where we know it now makes sense to do some initial drilling and really test more of what we've got. At the same time, we'll continue to explore the other parts of our asset base and continue the full program. So I'd say if you look at the key people, I think we have people in our management and board who've built projects globally and funded and advanced projects globally, but we also have a lot of technical expertise. We also have an advisor who will join our board called Mahendra Naik, who was one of the founders of IM Gold, one of the founding management team, and has helped build that company to 3.1 billion market cap, and it's focused across parts of Africa, so he's lots of experience of dealing in Africa. So I think he'll be a key part of the team as well.
Pretty exciting time ahead of you right now.
Very exciting, lots on, and you know, if you'd said to me when we brought the Uganda assets in January we would have advanced them as far as we have so quickly, I wouldn't have believed it. Obviously now, as I say, we're going to do some drilling, and I think that'll really help propel the company to the next stage.
Great, thanks for coming in and sharing that with us.
Thank you very much.